Hello, good evening, namaskar, sat sri akal. Welcome to Strive Dialogues. I'm your host for the day, Brigadier Rakesh Bhatia. Today, we're going to talk about India Middle East European corridor, the announcement of which was made on the sidelines of the successful G20 meeting, which was concluded in Delhi few weeks back. And today, our guest is Major General Mandeep Singh, a scholar warrior. He has been on our channel earlier. So, sir, welcome again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rakesh. Good to be here.
Sir, as we have seen in the mainstream media, India Middle East European Economic Corridor is being shown as a rival to the Belt and Road Initiative of China. But we need to be realistic. Is it really so? Because the mainstream media, it is their compulsion to give theatrics. उनको ऑडियंस चाहिए तो उसको वो शायद थोड़ा बड़ा चढ़ा के बोल रहे हैं बट वी इन स्ट्राइव which is a forum of retired army officers of all three forces, we need to be more pragmatic. Sir, somehow I feel that uninformed opinions lead to biases. So here we are, it's our attempt to make sure that every issue is, all round, we analyze it and, present it to our viewers. Sir, do you really think that the way mainstream media is giving out the benefits of IMEC, is it realistic, sir? Or is it a part of a narrative to, the nationalist sentiments of the citizen is being raised by this? Sir, may I request you to give your opening remark on the issue, sir?
Oh, well, let me start by saying that IMEC is definitely transformational. There's no doubt about that. It's a great initiative. But I would stop short there and say that yes, while there has been rhetoric, and while there has been a lot of talk about IMEC on social media, even in writings and in the mainstream media, but there is a need to just take a step back and analyze it in more detail to see what exactly is it going to pan out like. Now, the IMEC, as we know, is the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. It's 4,800 kilometers long, and it is in two parts. There's the western, the eastern and the northern part. The northern part being going, from Haifa right into Israel, and the eastern part from the west coast of India up to Haifa. But having said that, let's not forget that the BRI is 10 years old. It's very, very well established. You're going to have the third BRI in October in China. And if you really look back at how BRI has grown from 29 participants to 37 to now, the latest tweet that I saw was about 130 participants likely to come for the third BRI forum. While BRI is expanding, no doubt, but there are fault lines. And there are huge fault lines. If you look at the fault lines that are emerging, debt traps is on everybody's mind, and I don't have to expound on that. What is this debt trap all about? But one point is definitely that Italy and its decision not to sign up for the beyond 2024 is something that stands out. And I say that because Italy is part of the IMEC. But then there is issues like slippages on projects. Then there is this issue of coercion that and strong arm tactics that China, uses. So all of that is showing up certain fault lines. After all, 60% of the Chinese loans that they give are to debt and stressed economies. But having when I really looked at what is China's engagement in the Arab world, because that is where the IMEC goes through the Arab Peninsula, through Jordan, and through Israel, and on to the Mediterranean. Let me just try and bring out to the viewers what is China's penetration already existing in the Arab world. Just to give you an idea, economically, there are 17 cooperative mechanisms that exist. There's a there are 200 BRI projects already there in the Arab world. There are at least 30 projects which are under the Global Development Initiative of Xi Jinping, where they have put in about 5 trillion yuan. And their trade with the Arab world, the Arab states, is $30 billion with a target of going to $430 billion by 2027. And then if you look at it, engagement on the diplomatic side, China is cooperating with Arab states in the GCC, in the OIC. They are there in the Arab League. They have a great connect in these three, although they may not be physically present. The acme of their diplomacy with the Arab state has been the achievement where they have successfully brokered this deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Something that actually brought them to center stage, something that the US could. And if you look at it politically, you see the expansion that has happened recently. 4 out of the 6 states that are joining in are from the Arab world: Egypt, UAE, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. And a lot of that has driven. I mean, you can say, China is very much part of BRICS, and China driven. Even if you look at the people-to-people contact, China is divided there. There are at least 100 scientists at the moment training in China. Approximately 3,000 teenagers, they have a cultural exchange program over there. They have 10,000 healthcare and social development professionals which are being in China. And there are 20 Confucius institutes in the Arab world. So all in all, when we were to look at what all the BRI has already achieved in the Arab world, it's a tall call and a challenge. Still, if you want to play this as a counter to BRI as the head, then it will take time, because there's a huge penetration in the last 10 years.
Sir, totally agree with you on this issue. About it, we will further talk slightly later, sir. In fact, sir, next issue I wanted to bring, I saw a very interesting tweet that you had, or nowadays we call it a post on Twitter, sir, or X, wherein I have just flashed this. You have actually, tried to say that it is bond of civilizations, which the spice route, or IMEC as we are calling it, because erstwhile it was the spices which used to flow through this route. So why are you calling IMEC as an initiative of meeting old civilization in the contemporary world? I mean, what was the...
Yeah, actually, if you really see the map of IMEC, so on one end you have the west coast of India, and it's up in Piraeus in Greece. And if you see the route that it takes, it brings together the Greek civilization, the Jewish civilization. We're looking at Haifa, Israel, Middle East, that area, and then Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the Arab civilization. and then leading on to the Indian civilization. So you actually got four of the oldest and ancient civilizations in the world, which are stitched together in the IMEC. And it is my view that when we talk about old civilizations and when we talk about, why they are so unique, it is because old civilizations have a unique culture. They have a heritage. They have a history.
Correct.
They have an embedded sense of values that
Absolutely.
civilizations are known for. And so, uh, when you have civil bonding of civilizations, I see a very large people to people connect. When there is a people to people connect, then there are cultural exchanges, there is tourism, there are historical studies, dialogues, people to movement of historians, of students, of educationalists, etc. There is also a cross pollination of food, clo- you know, your say clothes, your social values. So all in all,
flow of
when I looked
flow
at
of
this,
ideas, flow of
so
ideas,
yeah,
influences. Moment it crosses one border and reaches the other one, there is a merger of two civilizations
yeah.
or
So there
older
is an overlap.
civilizations. So there are new.
Yeah,
There's a fusion of a lot of cultural values, the religious values. Bond increases.
exactly, exactly. So, and I believe strongly that if there's a people to people connect, Baki, the economic, political issues fall into place. And that is
बिल्कुल
why
सर.
I came up with this tweet.
सर, लाइक यू had initially in your opening remark आपने ये कहा था कि आईमैक अभी शुरू हुआ है, जबकि बीआरआई तकरीबन 10 साल, 2013 में अनाउंसमेंट हुई थी, 10 साल, 8 ट्रिलियन का बजट इज देयर, 90 कंट्रीज आर अटेंडिंग द, एज पर द ग्लोबल टाइम, 90 कंट्रीज, 30 इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस, दे आर ऑल एसोसिएटेड विद बीआरआई. Second thing I would bring to the notice, sir, is that there are 8 countries which are involved in IMEC, whereas in BRI there is single country, my money, my road, my diktats. So, do you really think, sir, it's too early and it's not happened? It's not the first time that a corridor has been announced. पहले भी कॉरिडोर अनाउंस हुए हैं, लेकिन ऑन ग्राउंड नथिंग हैज कम आउट. So, do you think it is too early for us now to compare really BRI and little bit of details you have covered earlier about IMAC, that how fast can it come up, if and what is the expectation at that, how it is going to pan out, sir?
Okay, so let's when we look at these two, let me just make a kind of a comparison between the two. When we look at, let's keep say BRI on one side and IMEC on the other side. As it stands today, uh, the IMEC comprises of about 7 members, but the BRI has about what about almost about 140 members.
Correct.
If you look at the aim is that there are distinct differences. The aim, uh, uh, as far as BRI is concerned, is it's Sinocentric. It's all about China.
Correct.
It's not about the world. It's not about the others. I mean, while they say it's for the common development and for building in economies in the developed nations, etc. Especially in the weaker and developing nations. The fact is that it's opaque. The rules are not known to anybody, and so it is entirely driven by China for its own interest and benefit. Whereas IMEC has is something which is more about about connectivity. If you really see
Correct.
the aims of IMEC, they are very clear. It's all about climate change. It's about sustainable development goals. It's about connectivity, energy, power, electricity. It looks at. It's also looking at the digital and the financial side of business and transaction. So there are distinct differences. This is all about creating jobs. It's about people. If you see both the maps carefully, you will see that the MRI, sorry, the BRI, I stand corrected, the BRI actually skirts the Arabic Peninsula and the landmass entirely. There is no development there. Whereas the IMEC goes through the landmass from say Jebel Ali and then goes right through the
Right.
landmass of Saudi Arabia through Jordan, and so there the interest is in developing the people, the social development of these people who live along this proposed corridor. Uh, as far as IMEC is concerned, the other unique thing about it is it's multimodal, right? So it's about rail
Yes,
corridor,
huge,
it's about a road
huge.
corridor, and then back to rail. So it's multimodal, and in that, whereas the what we see here, at least concerning this part, is it's all seaborne. It's a maritime silk route, so it's entirely seaborne. So it only touches the ports, right? So also then is the IMEC, the biggest advantage that I see in IMEC is that it is environmental friendly,
Yeah.
and it's focused on clean green energy. It's looking at achievement of SDG goals. It's looking at climate change, etc. As I
Correct.
mentioned, that should generate jobs. It should also generate opportunities for multinationals,
Correct.
companies of nations along the route to develop, to do business. Whereas if you see BRI, it is focused only on Chinese companies. The preference is to
Sir,
Chinese companies. Even
even
jobs are for
the
the Chinese people.
absolutely. The money is
Right?
given by Chinese. The material is given by the Chinese. The job, including the labor, is Chinese. So,
Yeah,
in a way, at the cost of the host nation, they are taking the advantage from all angles. And the local
exactly.
economy, it hardly contributes. And moreover, it is also taking out the natural resources from that country and moving it to China's.
Exactly. In fact, if you just go a little ahead, one of the most sensitive things and differences that I have seen in this is that sovereignty is not an issue with BRI.
Correct, sir.
Whereas for us, I mean, when you look at this, we respect the sovereignty of nations. I mean, you see what has
Absolutely.
happened to CPEC. That's a grudge. That's why we
Correct.
have not
Correct.
joined BRI. Is that you, you have to respect the sovereignty of nations that go through,
Absolutely.
right? Then, if you look at it from the economic point of view, and we look at debt traps, etc., uh, China has been giving loans at exorbitant rates. And it is that which has created this thing about debt traps, whether it's Pakistan or Sri Lanka or it's
Absolutely.
Kenya or it's now even Italy as it's looking at it, and a number of
Italy
other
is looking
smaller
at
European
exiting actually.
countries. Whereas the IMEC very clearly says that loans will be given as per international norms,
Absolutely. Sir.
and it clearly states that.
Absolutely.
And then, as I mentioned earlier, see, while BRI is focused only on infrastructure investment, whereas IMEC is multi-dimensional also.
Absolutely.
It takes you into the telecom space, it takes you into the power space, into the energy space, into the digital space,
Correct.
and into the financial space.
Sir, absolutely.
So it is actually the insistence of the Chinese on infrastructure and investment that is the rub. That is what is causing the
Absolutely.
rub.
Absolutely. Sir, talking about IMAX and a little bit of comparing it with BRI, like you had very rightly said, sir, BRI is a huge, huge project compared to IMAC. Do you think that there is a requirement to maybe include the African continent, Central Asian, South Asian? Other than India, there is nobody involved, and also the Southeast Asian countries. Whereas China is, either the digital correction, maritime silk routes or road silk routes or digital silk routes. I understand that's 10 years old, but do you think IMEX should actually expand, or it is okay sir, the way it is now?
Okay, so if you see what where it all started, you see the start point goes back to the PGII as the Partnership for Global investment and infrastructure, which was launched in 2022 at the G7 summit at Elmau in Germany. And where what was the intention? The intention was largely it's actually US driven. You can say an initiative PGIA to contain and to counter China and
Absolutely.
Chinese expansion. Right. What that PGIA said was that there should be a number of such corridors be created to improve regional connectivity amongst the many, and I'm not sure if all of them have actually panned out yet. We know at least one which has come up in Africa, which is the Trans African corridor, which is
Correct.
connecting Zambia, Congo, and Angola. Right? And at some stage, if we see more corridors like these coming up in various other parts of the African continent or in Southeast Asia, etc., IMEC will actually become a part of a larger
Network.
kind of an initiative.
Correct.
And if you see the map, you can see that anything coming up from the African continent and meeting, let's say, at in the Arabian Peninsula, or for that matter, anything on the east coast from Southeast Asia coming up to the Indian continent, these will all then become one big connect. And I fully agree with your contention that such nations like the African Union, etc., they've already joined
The
the uh, the
G20.
BRICS. Sorry, my friend, the
G20.
G20.
Hmm.
Yeah, they've just joined the G20, and now with this coming up, there is. I'm all to support this thing of African countries, Southeast Asia joining in. Ultimately, it must become for the common good, for the global good.
Another very important thing that has happened is, sir, because of the geography, Pakistan was holding us to ransom to open up. Now with this IMEC coming up, the relevance of Pakistan is finished. Otherwise, we had no access. Every time they were
There is
creating
still,
some issue or the other for us.
yeah. So I agree with. In fact, let's if one was to look at what are the geopolitical advantages that accrue to India from IMEC, it could be very interesting. Pakistan, this overland veto that Pakistan used
Yes,
to apply, that's been skirted altogether. And if you look at the geopolitical advantages that are going to come to say to India alone from IMEC, let me just kind of for your viewers, list out a few that I thought would be pretty advantageous to India. The first one is, as you've rightly said, is it skirts Pakistan. It also skirts Turkey, which is
absolutely. That was
increasingly.
going to be my this thing.
Uh,
Turkey, in fact, Erdogan is cribbing, sir. And
yeah,
he's saying
he
that
was very
include me
he
also.
was very miffed when it was announced in
Yes,
G20. He was very upset and miffed.
correct, sir.
But for us, this is a great opportunity to increase our strategic engagement in the Arab world. Please remember that we have, I think, what about 9 million expats in
Correct.
that area over there, and these people are so far working there. Once IMEC comes up, once projects happen, there's job creation. A lot of this benefit will happen to the Indian diaspora, and that's the kind of advantages that will accrue to people in their families back home.
Absolutely.
Individually, if you look geopolitically, India's relationship with each one of these is good. With the UAE and Saudi Arabia, for example, they are our third and the fourth largest trading partners.
Absolutely.
Uh, with Israel, we have excellent connect insofar as defense, security, agriculture. That is concerned. If you see, even Jordan, we have our trade with Jordan in the last few years has actually shot up. Overall, I was just seeing the figures. It might surprise you to know that the total trade that India has individually with these countries, it totals about $270 $56 billion. That's about 56 billion with last year with the Saudi Arabia, about 85 with UAE, about 11 with Israel, about four and a half with Jordan, and with the EU about $120 billion. So that totals 270.
Correct.
And out of the total trade that we do of about $1.17 trillion, 270 billion is about 25% of our trade, which is going to flow through the IMEC. So look at these are huge advantages.
Absolutely.
The other side, economically also, if you see, we are the second largest railway, right?
Correct.
So when the rail route comes and I think a lot accrue to the Indian Railways. We're the second largest rail network in the world, and we have a huge capability to do this overland route and the rail route. And hopefully, we will get some contracts on this, and some advantages will accrue. But I think the biggest strategic advantage that we have with this is assured, reliable oil and energy,
Absolutely, sir.
gas and energy. That is for a booming economy like ours, that's the most essential thing.
Absolutely, sir.
And I think that's going to be the biggest geopolitical advantage to us.
And probably I mean, will it be disadvantage China, sir, here, or
Oh,
both
not
will?
really. See, would not really say that there's a. Let's not play it just because China is not part of G7. China is not part of PGI. It's quite natural for people to say, this is a anti-China or anti-BRI thing, and I've tried to tell you
Absolutely,
how much they already have. But uh, to look at the way the Chinese have been able to achieve this, we must look at IMEC as an alternative. We should see post COVID, supply chains broke, alternate routes were required. People need the nations need alternate routes, and so it's my view that we should look at this not so much as a competitive mode but as a collaborative mode. And for nations which are wanting to join IMEC or already in the IMEC, should be looked as an alternative route, not necessarily a confrontational or an anti BRI thing. At least not at this stage, definitely.
right, sir. Like partially again, we have spoken taking the thread ahead. Now, economic initiatives and corridors, they are not absolutely for economics alone. So it has certain amount of geopolitical influences also, and in fact, many of them are not even thought of, but which comes up. Do you think, sir, that this particular initiative of US has got something to do with the national security strategy of 2022, sir, when the US had actually, if you recall, sir, Obama had announced in 2010-11, he had announced that rebalancing to Asia Pacific and then to Indo Pacific. It was basically to contain China economically and militarily. Now, do you think that IMAC is part of that strategy? On one side, we are saying that it's not competitive, but countries here cooperating with each other, more or less same set of values, benign presence versus debt trap of China. Do you think it's a game being played between US and China, and in the bargaining we are getting benefited?
Okay, so let me just take you back a little bit, maybe just 2 3 years back, to go to the origin of this IMF, and that from that should flow, answers to the questions that you are posing. So there are two major events that have occurred. The first one was, like I mentioned, the setting up of the PGII. Incidentally, that is Biden's old initiative of that B3W initiative,
Correct.
Build Back Better World initiative, which got rebranded and now is spoken about as the
Correct.
PGII. Right. The other very important thing that happened was the signing of the Abraham the
Yes.
Accords. That was in September of 2020. And what was that? On the 15th of September, uh, uh, Bahrain, UAE, and Israel signed a historic accord, which was brokered by the US.
Yes.
And it talked about two, three things. One was accepting and agreeing to the sovereignty of Israel, and the second was to open full diplomatic relations with Israel. Now, once that happened, it triggered a lot of interest in the Arab world. Morocco, for example, came up in December and signed up in December. And now there is talk about approaching um, non-Arab but Muslim states like Indonesia, like Somalia, like Mauritania, like Niger, for example, to again to sign up and to recognize Israel. And most of all, there is an ongoing dialogue now opening up with Saudi Arabia uh, as well. And of course, that's on the on the slow burner yet. But when that happens, it will be truly transformational. Now, it is the start of the Abraham Accords, where it, there's a realization for the development of the Middle East, which has been in turmoil for so many decades. And coupled with that, the US realized that its rebalance to Asia has not worked. Chinese BRI has made inroads, and there is a need to do something to counter it. If you see the national security strategy that came out in 2022,
Correct.
there's a clear kind of an assessment that the US role in the Middle East needs to be reinforced and to build political, economic, and security linkages in the region so as to get back the US uh, and regain the lost ground that has happened over the last few years. So the PGII pledged $600 billion for the next 5 years um, till 2027. And immediately, of course, I think MBS Mohammed bin Sultan, the King of Saudi Arabia, I think he's already pledged 20 billion, and the US has pledged 30 billion. So money has already been pledged. It's not that still in the air.
Correct.
It's there for the IMEC. So when this money comes, when funding starts, there is some seriousness to this whole thing. So, if you were to ask me as to whether this is a strategy to counter China, I would say that yes, it is a strategy to counter China. It is driven by the US, um, but it's going to be a long, long road to achieve this. In fact, if you read some of the Chinese writings, very interesting. Chinese have already started assuming this. There's a researcher called Wang Xiao from Fudan University who was actually pinpointed and said that there are three major weaknesses in the IMEC, and the first is funding. The second is consensus. Consensus because he feels that there are too many different people involved in this.
Correct.
There's a melee of people involved in IMEC. And lastly, he's been very emphatic about the China-Arab relationship, and he says to break into that relationship is going to be a huge task for IMEC. He's very,
Correct.
very. In fact, he mentioned that the Saudi vision of 2030 and the BRI vision of 2020 actually intersect.
Yes.
So, I would say these are early days, and I would say that let's wait for November when the working groups start meeting in
Yes.
IMEC and
60
see how
days
it's
from
going to
the
pan out. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Sir, very interesting. So, very broadly, we say that they are these two projects or corridors are totally different for different purposes, but yes, somewhere they do converge. But yes, the advantages are uh, definitely there with India. But like you said, slowly as it pans out, sir, we are going to be more sure of how exactly it is coming up. As of now, yes, hopes are there, but probably ultimately, sir, it's the economics which is going to work for the nation, sir.
true,
So no, it's not
true.
going to be that much of competitive as probably are. I'm sorry, I'm repeating it, sir. somehow I felt that our mainstream media made it look as if it's a absolutely rival to BRI, and everything is going to change overnight. No, it will take time. It is. So we have a few questions. Before that, would you like to make a closing remarks?
No, well, the only thing that I'm making a case for at the moment is that these are early days, and that one should not look at this as a competitive, especially when you look at it from a prism of BRI versus IMEC. It is not. It would be better for all if it is looked at as collaborative and as an alternative, rather than being confrontational and competitive.
Sir, with your permission, now we'll start. The first one is more of a comment from General Dushyant, sir. Just flash it on the screen. He says that IMEC is a cooperative concept. On the other hand, BRI is a China-centric project. So you have mentioned, as far as BRI concerned, straight away it is China, it's Chinese money and Chinese will, whereas in this particular case, it is cooperative concept. Sir, you may like to add your comments if you wish to, sir.
No, I 100% agree with the general. There is no doubt about it. How was BRI conceived? BRI was conceived in 2013 when China and Chinese economy needed to go out of China. They had become the world's manufacturing hub, and they didn't have markets. They needed markets.
Correct, sir.
So they decided to make the rules themselves. They made the rules. They set the course for it.
Absolutely.
Uh, they decided what they want. It was for Chinese companies by Chinese people. In fact, some of the initiatives in some of the countries, one doesn't really know how deals have been done. It's so we are not aware as to what is the
Yes.
understanding uh,
Terms and
between
conditions can have, sir.
nations. It's not common rules don't apply to everybody on the BRI.
Absolutely.
It's bilateral.
Yes.
It may be a multilateral initiative, but the deals are all bilateral, and we're not aware of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So we take on the next question, sir. Ask, given the history of communal tensions that erupt in parts of Bharat time to time, like Delhi riots, is it safe for India to have such a long land route via Saudi Arabia? Can Arab blackmail us?
No, I think I totally disagree with this view. Um, See, that is not looking at the Indian civilization and the Arab civilization. There is far too much of connect. I just mentioned to you, just look at the
Correct.
amount of trade we do there. Just with UAE alone, such a small country, we do $85 billion. With
Yes.
Saudi Arabia, we do $56 billion as of 2022. All there's so many of our people are there in that region, and we have so much of oil and gas coming in from there. Uh, I would say that whatever IMEC is aimed at doing, uh, it will only increase our cooperation between nations, increase our trade, help us grow together. I don't see any other reason to be concerned about. I mean, there are these things do not come to the fore at all when we look at economics. And like you rightly said, at the end of the day, it's all about economics.
Absolutely.
It transcends all other issues.
Sir, now we go ahead and there's another question specifically for you, sir, where is General Dushant is talking about US, though not part of the BRI, sends its representative in every summit. India does not. Comment, sir.
Which summit are we talking about?
We're talking about the
This is,
BRI summit. That the one which is going to happen in October, sir. The third BRI
yeah,
final.
no. Uh, You're talking about the BRI forum
BRI,
meeting,
BRI
which
forum.
happens. Yeah, yeah.
I think you can
Uh,
see the question on the screen, sir.
yeah, it's in every summit, so I didn't know it was. I was just clarifying that. We're talking
Ah,
about the
oh,
BRI
thank you.
forum. Yeah,
Yes,
right.
BRI.
So we have unequivocally stated that we are not joining the BRI because it impinges on sovereignty. The CPEC goes through the state of J&K, which is disputed. And that's a very clear statement that we made. Therefore, we do not want to be part of a initiative or an economic initiative in which our own sovereignty has not been considered, has not been given due regard. Therefore, our reps do not go to the BRI forums. They're not required.
Sir, continuing with what General Dushyant is saying, recently, sir, Z came up with a white paper. You would have gone through it, suggesting that China is focusing on cooperative, peaceful development. It is not a zero sum game. Probably as a reaction to G20, what India achieved, probably China is saying that no, I'm not a hawk. I also want people to come along, sir. So his question to you is, going by your experience of, visiting China and meeting a lot of people from of Chinese origin, if I may say, sir. So can you really trust Z, sir?
See, um, there are no friends, there are no foes, there are only national interests, right?
Sir,
That's the essence of diplomacy. So, whether you trust a person or not entirely depends on whether it is in your national interest. Whatever China may do, whatever China may want,
sir,
if it doesn't serve the national interests of India, well, then we will not be part of any of that. And we will not, it takes two to tango, but we will not be in the same tent, as they say, in case it doesn't serve our national interest. So, therefore, trust, I think, is not as relevant as I would say our national interests are.
absolutely. But probably going by what Z has done, I mean, he's redder than the red, and he's trying to prove. So his own ideology and his this thing would probably be paramount compared to, I don't know, your views.
Okay, so everybody has an ambition. In his case, what appears to be that he wants to go into the pantheon of the legends like Mao Zedong, of, you know, and he feels that what he's doing for China uh, has, in a number of ways, actually started by copying Mao Zedong in almost
Absolutely.
every atmosphere.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, every sphere of action.
I mean, even visiting
But
those
now I
places in
think he has
uniform
become
wherever he had gone, sir. I mean, even wearing the
exactly, yeah,
uniforms
yeah.
to locations.
The places, the actions,
And the
the
sequence
various
of his
initiatives,
visits.
even diplomacy, etc.
Absolutely.
But but there are fault lines. It's not that everything is so hunky dory there. There are problem
Absolutely.
areas. There are people who are unhappy. There are economic slowdowns. There are even internal dissent. There are rumblings of internal dissent. So, all in all, I would say that it's not smooth sailing for him. He may have aspirations, ambitions. They say that one of the biggest achievements for him to actually achieve that cult status will be to
Yes.
integrate Taiwan. But that's another story. Maybe we can talk about it separately.
Yes, he's been promising, call it Ching dream or Ming dream or whatever, once upon a time, whatever the dream. So he's converting into present day Chinese dream. So let's say if he does it, or will that be the proverbial nail in the coffins? So we go ahead,
Um,
sir. Sorry.
If you are alluding to Taiwan,
Yes, sir.
and if you are suggesting that Taiwan, and it will be an easy operation to integrate it, I don't think so. I have written elsewhere about this. I've also written about a possible strategy for Taiwan to defend itself against China. But it's my personal view that it will be a very difficult, uh, if it's a whatever means he adopts, whether it is military or otherwise, it will be very difficult to achieve this goal of integrating Taiwan so easily, uh, particularly after the lessons of Ukraine.
Absolutely. No, I was referring to the nail in the coffin as far as Z's cult uh, this thing is concerned. That way.
Yeah, so can you risk a loss? I don't know.
Yes,
If this doesn't happen, yes, it's going to rebound heavily on him, on his
absolutely.
personal standing. So it's a risk, and I'm sure they must be measuring, very very closely. They would have worked this out. Let's see how it pans out. At the moment, there is enough activity happening in that part of the world for people to
Correct.
get concerned, and some of us do look at it closely. Well,
Absolutely.
let's see whether he finally decides to fire the first shot. Let's see.
Or or leave it at rhetorics. So we go ahead with one more question and then we'll
Okay.
probably. Colonel RP's question is a BRI versus IMEC. Is any time frame agreed for operation? Probably referring to the IMEC mostly. In case of both, some projects are interlinked, but few are going to be news.
Yeah. What the MOU that was signed here on the 9th, I think 9th of September during G20 says that if you look at it in detail, it says that there will be now working groups formed within 60 days, within 2 months. So, round about, I think, the end of November, you should be seeing some working groups formed. And those working groups and those teams, when they are formed, will give us a fair sense of the areas of interest as far as the IMEC is concerned, how it's going to go. That will be the first hint. The second thing about IMEC is, which is pretty unique and unusual, is that most of the infrastructure is already in place. Most of the ports already exist. Most of the route that it's taking already there. There's only one small stretch, if I'm given to understand, between Riyadh and Haifa of about 300 kilometers of rail network that needs to be done. Otherwise, as far as the ports are concerned, the infrastructure is concerned, it already exists.
Absolutely.
So getting it off the blocks is going to be much easier. It's a question of only integrating and getting these work. So let's just wait for the next, say, a few days on the end of November, and a lot will come out from what is decided. What are the types of work, these groups that are formed? Each one of them obviously will be addressing one dimension. So that may be, for example, digital. It could be connectivity oriented, transportation. All of that, once that is formed, we should get a clear
Then
idea
we'll be able to guess.
of the operationalization. There may be even targets. I'm sure that they'll have some kind of targets. Then we'll be able to look forward to that as to
I
what they're
think,
able
sir,
to achieve.
this first meeting that is going to take place, I think a lot of issues will be clarified in that because
Exactly.
this
Yes,
time
I
the
think so.
sideline, the main event was G20 and it was announced at that particular time. So many of the details couldn't have been given in this forum. Probably the meeting, which is exclusively for the purpose, would give us more clarity.
Yes, yes.
Sir, though I'd say this is the last question, there are a lot of questions. I'll combine them and ask you one, try and take the sense from everybody. Some of our viewers are actually worried about radicalization that is from Arabs. So you are at liberty if you don't wish to answer. I mean, I've just because a lot of viewers have asked this question, so they are really worried about this thing that is it possible that the Arab world, because of the radicalization or because of the religious this thing, is going to back out from the project? So, I mean, you can give a short answers and put
Yeah, see,
probably
see, with the kind of the the approachma that has happened now in the Arab world, who would have ever thought that Israel would
yes,
be in the same
Abrahamic.
tent with the UAE, with the Arab world, and look where they are going.
And so sorry
So
interrupting. And
yeah,
Saudi Arabia and Iran,
yeah,
the
it's amazing.
deal being brokered by a non-religious country like China, sir.
Yes,
Godless country like China, sir. At two
yes,
extremes of Islam.
yeah. So there are, if I may put it, huge disruptive changes happening in the world, and I do not see that this radicalism. How is it in any case? Has any of the radicalism coming into India over the last 3 decades, let's say in JK, has that got its origin in this any of these IMEC countries? No, not at all. And
Absolutely.
really, there are challenges. I'm not saying there are no challenges. Please understand that the area that it passes through, there is some unsettled issues. For
Yes.
example, the Palestine issue is not settled,
Correct. Correct.
right? So there is likely to be a problem there, some stress between Israel and Palestine, which may show up because Haifa is in Israel, and it's very close to this area of unrest. And then remember that Turkey announced
Yes.
its absence from IMEC, and so there
Yes.
are possibilities of Turkish, uh, you know, unhappiness translating into some kind of contestation, if at all. So really, if I were to look at challenges in that area, I'd possibly focus on these two. I don't see any other issue that we should be really concerned about at all.
Sir, like the questions are coming at a very, very fast pace. One last question, surely thereafter we will finish this. It's from Shivendra, sir. Hello, sir. Who is prevailing in China, Z or CCP, sir? So you can quickly answer this.
We were talking about IMEC. We've gone into China and
I know,
yes.
sir. Oh, it happens, sir. Oh, connection जुड़ जाता है, sir.
Uh, See, Xi Jinping has got absolute control over the CCP. Now you
Yes,
want to tell me if it is Xi or China, I would put it as one,
absolutely.
right? They are one and the same. I mean, a gentleman like him, and who's got almost every hat that matters, he wears, at least four that I can count off. Plus, he's heading all the leading groups on foreign affairs and defense, etc. Everything, almost every initiative, whether it's the GDI, the GSI, the GCI, are all his saying. Xi Jinping thought is taught in schools. The PLA officers are tested on their knowledge on Xi Jinping thought.
Correct.
It's part of their political indoctrination
Correct.
and political study, which
These
is
thoughts are
pushed through by
taught
the
in
yeah,
research.
yeah, yes. So he is the. I mean, he's got total control over the CCP, and I don't see if there's any comparing between the two. There's no comparing. He's absolute control.
It's the same coin and two sides of the coins.
Yeah.
With Z being the head and CCP being the tail, if I may say so, sir.
Well, it's directly under him. He controls every organ of the CCP. So there's no difference in two at all.
Right, sir. I think we've had a very interesting discussion, sir. I really thank you, sir. In the end, I'll just say that in Strive, we are a forum of veteran armed forces officers. We try and have no biases, try and carry out an analysis, all round analysis without any disagreement, or we do disagree with certain things. So I would request our audience to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Janal Mandeep, sir, extremely thankful to you for taking out this valuable time and letting us know
Thank you
the
so much.
details
Thank you,
about
Rakesh.
BRI and MEC.
Thank,
I look forward to more interactions like this. Thank you very much, sir.
thank you.
Jai Hind, sir.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you so much and wishing Prime great success in the days ahead.